All right, guys, we're going to get right into it. So we have this clip here. We're going to keep calling this clown out Ben Shapiro, this genocidal, warmongering maniac. So this guy's running around. His rhetoric is all about war, and he wants to, constantly talking about how people twice the size need to go fly overseas and fight for his cause or his entity that he holds dear to him in the Middle East that has nothing to do with anyone except for him and his genocidal Zionist colonialist, imperialistic group of people who have now put ISIS. Get this, they put ISIS. This is a CIA operation where they put ISIS in power in Syria, and there was just a massacre that occurred literally within the past 2 days where 1,000 civilians have died from minority groups. They're trying to balkanize Syria, and it's a whole process with these people. But let's get into this comment here that this clown made. This is some. Let's see what he had to say here. This is we're going to keep exposing this clown. Let's get into it.
Okay, there were significant human rights predations against Christians on the ground, not only in the areas controlled by Sunni terrorists, but also in the areas that were controlled by Shia terrorists. Syria is about 10% Christian. Okay, so is it about to get worse? It definitely could, which would, of course, be a terrible thing. And then you have the question of what Bashar al-Assad was doing to the country, which is killing hundreds of thousands of people using everything up to and including chemical weapons. Well, he's gone now, and Israel has been striking a lot of the chemical weapons depots to prevent them from falling into
Syria never had chemical weapons, by the way.
The hands of the new rebel alliance over here. Okay, so, again, is any of this wonderful? It isn't. But the one thing that is an upside is that the Iranian crescent is dead. Okay, the Shia crescent that, again, stretched all the way from Iran all the way across to Lebanon, that is now dead. What does that mean? It means the Iranian regime is actually in quite real trouble here. All of their biggest proxies are gone. Hamas, gone. Hezbollah, gone. Assad, gone. That means the Shia influence game is beginning to wane. It's beginning to end. The Houthis are basically isolated down there in Yemen. The Shia regime in Iran still has impact in Iraq, but internally they are much, much, much weaker right now. So the border countries, what are they doing? Turkey is doing incursions into northern Syria. They were probably behind much of what's going on right now. They're attempting to grab territory in northern Syria. They're creating their own buffer zone. They're attempting to encroach on Kurdish territory, again, in the northeast of the country. Meanwhile, Israel in the south has the Golan Heights. And anybody, by the way, who thought that it was a good idea for Israel to give up the Golan Heights, yeah, you're an idiot. Okay, it's a good thing Israel has the Golan Heights. Otherwise, you'd have Sunni terrorists sitting up top over the Lake Tiberias and firing down into the valley in Israel. Okay, so Israel controls that area. They've been moving up into their own buffer zone over at Mount Hermon, which is in Syria. It's kind of the strategic height of the region. Okay, meanwhile, again, you have the Syrian government, which has now abdicated. They are turning over control to this rebel alliance. Unclear exactly what's going to result. Because, again, you still have all of these players on the ground who are fighting one another. They may be united against Assad, but now Assad is gone. So Assad's family is out. The rebels, again, arrived in Damascus. Meanwhile, you have the Kurds who are still controlling a large swath of territory. What does it really mean? It means that Russia is weak. Iran is weak. These were paper tigers. And their attempts to invade Ukraine and invade Israel, respectively, those went really poorly for them. What you are watching is the complete collapse of the Russian-Iranian alliance in Syria, and it is indicative of the interior weakness of these countries, which is something to remember going forward. President Biden said this is the first time ever either Russia nor Iran or Hezbollah could defend a foreign regime in Syria. This is the direct result of the blows Ukraine and Israel delivered. This is what he said in a statement. No thanks to Joe Biden, by the way, who's continuing to slow walk weapons to both Ukraine and also to Israel. So if it had been up to Joe Biden, presumably those allies never would have been properly armed. But it is a very good thing and indicative, again, of the weakness of Russia and Iran, what has happened in Syria. Now, net, I think it'll probably be a good thing. But there are no great things in the Middle East. It just doesn't exist. A lot of bad people in a lot of areas in the Middle East.
All right. So this guy's pretty much saying that Syrian Christians being murdered in cold blood after the fall of Assad is a good thing because at least Israel's enemies are weakened, which is A complete bullshit, guys. The reality of it is they gave up that swath of land, Syria, which was really even though Assad was in Syria, he wasn't really necessarily a threat to Israeli expansionism, or really Israel in general. I mean, he never did anything to free the Golan Heights, and he was not really interested in having war in that region. And there was a lot of turmoil, and and, Syria was heavily sanctioned. It was isolated economically. You had the entire economy depended on a drug ring operation, and so this guy saying, "Oh, it's a good thing. Oh, it's a good thing that Syria fell because it destroyed the Shia crescent in Iran from leading to Lebanon, and Iran's now weakened and Israel's in a better position." And really, you guys just gave up that whole piece of land to head chopping ISIS individuals who use the banner of Islam to commit atrocities. I don't know, that Wahhabi ideology, right? That commit atrocities all throughout Syria. These people are mentally and psychologically ill. They've probably been in prison for decades. Now they're on the streets free. It's like, imagine freeing up, like, I don't know, all the prisons in El Salvador, right? And there's no government to hold them accountable. These guys are killing people left and right. These people are absolutely sick. I mean, if you look at the videos that came out on X, obviously the guy who's in charge now, Jelani, he has zero control over any of these people, because they've just been committing massacres, like unheard of, like bone-quivering footage coming out of there, guys. Just absolute disgustingness. And his claim is that, oh, well, Iran is weakened now, so it's okay. It's okay. Oh, yeah, and Israel was able to get rid of Syria's chemical weapons. And Syria never had chemical weapons. That was all a scam used for the to convince the Obama administration to get involved in Syria and have U.S. bases there, and so that was a huge scam. The key is they're trying to balkanize Syria, and Israel's banking on the fact that due to the ISIS individuals' ideology, they're going to somehow align with Saudi Arabia and like the larger, stronger, major Sunni states, so that way, if they do form and when they do sign that peace agreement with Israel, they're going to be less hostile to Israel's imperialistic ambitions in Syria, because they've already, pretty much annexed southern Syria all the way up to Mount Hermon.
Okay, there were significant human rights predations against.
But they still ideologically, they don't like Israel. It's not like this guy's acting like now he has people on the border that are friendly towards Israel. They're not, right? They're not friendly towards Israel. They're not friendly towards anyone. These people are sick. And the atrocities, man. Look at this video here. Anyways, a lot of stuff we can't really play on here because of the restrictions on YouTube, but yeah, so this is who we're dealing with here. This is a guy trying to get Americans and people to fight his wars for him in order to secure his entity, or secure apparently like this huge threat where Iran's going to have nuclear weapons and they can launch them towards everybody in Europe, and none of that shit is true. It's really to secure Saudi, Israeli, UAE interest in the region. And people like him and the people that are funding a lot of this stuff that's going on, and people in certain lobby groups that have a stronghold on what goes on with American foreign policy, are trying to get Americans to go fight their wars for them. Go die, go fight their wars, suffer economically. You have the homelessness, fentanyl flowing through the border. So, yeah, that's why your trash-ass podcast is going to hell, dude. That's why no one's watching that shit, because we know what type of person you are. Candace Owens was holding that whole entire podcast, and you got rid of her. So your shit's going to hell, bro. You get literally. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, man. Like, comment, subscribe.